Flow by Designs. This is episode 38. It is titled Deutscher Rat. Ein Gedicht von Robert Reinick.
Vor allem eins, mein Kind. Sei treu und wahr.
This podcast is all about doing interesting things in literature that I enjoy. I like language as well, and that's why I post things about German and Norwegian and English. So sometimes you hear me reading stories in German. Sometimes you hear me doing Duolingo lessons in Norwegian. And other times I read short stories or poems in English. I've never read a poem just to be the subject of a podcast in German, so today is something different. This is a poem by Robert Reinick from Germany, and the title is Deutscher Rat, and it can be translated to the effect of German advice or German counsel, like life counsel. It comes from a book, Du deutsches Kind, You German Child. And the whole book is filled with poetry and lessons and all sorts of, I would say, character building or morality building lessons that were written way back in the day. Let's say 18th century, 19th century, and the like. The book was edited or put together by J.B. Lasleben. I'd like to introduce this poem and say a few words in English. So here it goes. This episode you're about to hear is something that speaks volumes in its content. I believe that most of us have a deeper sense of what should be done and hope we will do better to learn and to teach our children how to live well and interact with others in a healthy way. Today I will present a poem that is in German, and I will give an introduction in German. And I will do an introduction in German partly because the language of the poem is in German, and I think it's appropriate, or it's nice, or it sounds academic, I guess, and I kind of like academia in a way. But I also do it partly because I wanted to challenge myself to express and organize more complex thoughts on this subject matter in a language that is not my mother tongue. The title Deutscher Rat can be translated either German advice or German counsel or something along those lines. This poem gives life advice that we have heard when we were younger or were taught to do at some point in our younger lives, probably even at our older lives, like high school, college, and even after that too. However, in light of all the events, especially in these past 3 years, it just seems to me that those lessons have been playing less and less a role in our lives. And in many cases, it seems to me that these kind of lessons have been relegated to the rubbish bin by many of us. I know I fail to keep them in mind when I'm being pressured or when I'm frustrated. And of course, when I feel intolerant. Well, at any rate, although this poem directly addresses German children, it is obviously applicable to all children and adults too. And from my experience, most parents, I see it, I hear it anyway, would prefer that their children have a good character, that they grow up to be polite, that they grow up to speak nicely. So it is my question, why not take a line out of this poem if it's just one line. And reflect on it. Somehow make it a teachable moment. Use it in a teachable moment, either for your children or maybe just for yourself. I hope that it can inspire just one person. That would be great. My listenership is not that high, so one person is actually kind of a high goal, to be honest, when you look at statistics. I could even say that one person could even be me, and that would still be quite great. Okay, here is my attempt at introducing the poem in German, after which I will read the poem in German. And finally, to close this episode, I've translated it into English, albeit unrhymed. Einleitung. Wir alle brauchen noch mehr was Gutes im Leben, ja? Aber wie kann man dieses Gutes im Leben bringen? Als wir klein waren, sind die meisten von uns sicherlich zu ernsthaften, wohlmeinend Eltern geboren. Sie wollten unserer Erziehung gut zu sein, dass wir brav und hold waren. Jede Eltern wissen schon, es gibt einige Raten, die das Lehren der Kinder nötig ist. Zum Beispiel, die Eltern immer sagen, sag Dankeschön und Bitteschön. Und was noch, du musst sie anstatt du sagen und so weiter. Die meisten sind so höflich. Ich meine die Kinder, die Eltern. Wir sind höflich, ja? Wir wollen höflich zu sein. Aber es gibt viel mehr, was wir nicht so oft hören davon. Ich meine die Sachen, was Tieferes gehen. Das, was uns noch was ins Leben geben. Diese Dinge sind am meisten nicht Wörter, dass wir aussprechen oder aushören können, die die Kinder und ja, Erwachsene sagen sollten. Ich meine nicht, was wir hören, sondern die sind Dinge, die wir alle machen und können, um ein besseres Leben zu erleben dürfen. Folgendes ist ein Gedicht nicht nur für Kinder, sondern auch für jeder. Wenn wir möchten, andere Leute nett und höflich zu uns zu sein, dann können wir oder sollen wir zuerst entsprechend handeln, genau so höflich. Das Gedicht von Robert Reinick. Deutscher Rat. Vor allem eins, mein Kind, sei treu und wahr. Lass nie die Lüge deinen Mund entweihen. Von alters her im deutschen Volke war der höchste Ruhm, getreu und wahr zu sein. Du bist ein deutsches Kind, so denke dran. Noch bist du jung, noch ist es nicht so schwer. Aus einem Knaben aber wird ein Mann. Das Bäumchen biegt sich, doch der Baum nicht mehr. Sprich Ja und Nein und drehen Deutle nicht. Was du berichtest, sage kurz und schlicht. Was du gelobest, sei dir höchste Pflicht. Dein Wort sei heilig, drum verschwind es nicht. Leicht schleicht die Lüge sich an Herz heran. Zuerst ein Zwerg, ein Riese hinten nach. Doch dein Gewissen zeigt dein Feind dir an und eine Stimme ruft in dir. Sei wach. Dann wach und kämpf. Es ist ein Feind bereit. Die Lüg in dir, sie droht dir Gefahr. Kind, Deutsche kämpfen tapfer alle Zeit. Du, deutsches Kind, sei tapfer, treu und wahr. Von Robert Reinick, Deutscher Rat. Now comes the translation. It is a rough translation, and it is not rhyming. That may be a higher challenge than I can attain to. Rather, it is there because I wish to share it with more people. Even though the translation is not so elegant, I think the point of the message is still evident. Thank you for listening. German Advice by Robert Reinick. One thing above all, my child, be faithful and true. Never let lies desecrate your mouth. From time immemorial, in the German people was the highest glory, being faithful and true. You are a German child, so remember, you're still young. It's not that difficult yet, but a boy becomes a man. The little tree bends, but the big tree no longer. Say yes and no, and don't turn and gesture. What you report, keep it short and simple. What you promise is your highest duty. Your word is holy, so don't waste it. The lie easily creeps up to the heart. First, a dwarf, then a giant behind. But your conscience is showing you the enemy, and a voice within you is calling. Be awake. Then wake up and fight. An enemy is ready. The lie in you, it threatens you with danger. Child, Germans fight bravely at all times. You, German child, be brave, faithful, and true. And one last thing. The poem can easily be stated not as addressed to just a German boy or a German girl, but to a person, a human. You could call it advice to the humans, advice to us.